Massachusetts Education Commissioner Dr. Carlos Santiago was in Western Massachusetts this week. Santiago is cautioning that the abrupt closure of Mount Ida College in Dedham is part of a larger trend here in Massachusetts and beyond. Last week, Attorney General Maura Healey okayed the $75 million sale of Mount Ida to UMass Amherst, but also said she would investigate whether Mount Ida officials violated their fiduciary duty. Santiago's office has worked with Healey's to understand this sudden turn of events. But before Santiago and I got to that, I first asked him about the state of public education.
This is probably the most challenging I've seen higher education in my 30-plus years because the demography is changing. The numbers of students going to college is going down, the number of high school to college students. So at a time when Massachusetts and its innovation economy needs more educated and skilled workers in its labor force, the pipelines are getting a little drier than what we would have hoped.
And one of the things getting in the way of that is cost.
Cost is affordability, certainly one of the things more among the independent and private institutions than among our public institutions. But I think even among the public institution, costs have been rising.
And speaking to your point about the need for, when you look at the light manufacturing industry in particular, we know not only here in Massachusetts, but throughout New England, there are a lot of openings in that particular area. Springfield Technical Community College is the only technical community college in the state of Massachusetts. Would you like to push for maybe one or two more technical community colleges?
Well, I think in many respects, even our non-technical institutions are starting to move more in that direction out of necessity. So we know that, historically some have been more sort of transfer institutions and some more or less technology focused. But I think you're seeing all of them kind of step up to the plate and in some respects replicate what's going on here. And I think that's good for everybody.
Big news that we've been hearing statewide recently is the forthcoming closure of Mount Ida College and UMass's connection. It's stepping up and purchasing of that institution. Last week, we saw Attorney General Maura Healey approve that sale. What's your reaction to her decision?
Well, we've worked very closely with the Attorney General's office. We are responsible for the closure plans of those institutions and revoking their degree authority. So we've been very much involved from our perspective. Students come first, and finding them credible pathways so they can continue their academic career is central. It's the most important thing we've been doing. And it helps us when the Attorney General can basically enforce some of those actions. So we have relied on her office to help. We've worked together with them on some of the transfer programs. And by and large, even though Mount Ida has hit the news for the last month or so, the reality is that our department has dealt over the last 5 years with 15 such closures and mergers. And the others have not gotten onto the front page of the newspapers or in the newscasts.
The circumstances surrounding this one was a bit unique. The timetable was brief, and also you've even written a letter to the president saying you weren't fully briefed on the fact that this was happening, right?
I did mention to the Senate Audit and Oversight Committee that I was notified when I was in the State House at a function, and a reporter put a microphone in front of me and said, "So what do you think about this closure?" And I told him, "What closure?"
Probably not the way you'd like to hear about that.
Not the way we should have been informed.
Yeah. And to your point, the department has dealt with 15, as you say, other closures or mergers. Are you concerned that there are others on the horizon? Do you have any awareness of that?
Well, we think even if you look at the national data, we are seeing more than we've ever seen before. And there are mergers as well, and closures and consolidations. So I think it is symptomatic of what's going on in public higher education and private higher education. It's symptomatic of the decline in enrollment. Many, the most vulnerable institutions are small nonprofit institutions that depend most heavily on tuition from students. Those are the ones that are most in jeopardy.
Meaning they don't have the large sweeping endowments that some of the private institutions
have. They don't have research dollars. They don't have the other kinds of streams of revenue that can support them during the tough times.
Yeah. When we look at higher education moving forward, we heard a report last week from the Hope Institute, and you might be connected. It's connected to one of your former institutions. Yeah. But what we heard there is that students are struggling at the state and university level with either homelessness, housing insecurity, or food insecurity. Right. How do we need to, what are some of the changes that need to be made to help these students?
Well, and it's interesting. I mean, when you first brought up the issue of affordability, I immediately thought of tuition and fees and books. What we know is in the reality of the students that are coming to our institutions now, our public institutions, when you talk about the cost of education, it does include food insecurity, homelessness, transportation, and daycare. So
things that people who are thinking about going to college traditionally think about, right?
Absolutely. So there are a number of things. We're working with other government agencies. We're getting the nutrition, the federal nutrition program to apply to students as well. So we're working on some pilots. We are using some of the state university beds that are available and seeing if they can house temporarily community college students. They're available beds. You have available students. They still have to pay for those beds whether they're full or not. So we find this is a good kind of way to get our particularly our 24 state universities and community colleges working together. So there are solutions, and it's just a new world for many of us. You know, when I never thought that hunger and homelessness would be a really crucial issue. Yeah, and now it is.
I know it was something that WGBH, you spoke to them back in 2015 when you first became commissioner, that this was a challenge. And at that time, the reporting pointed out that one of the ways that this was being looked at was by having on-campus food pantries.
Yes, all of our campuses have food pantries. And when I first talked about that, it's what I was hearing from students. They were telling me that they had these issues. What we've done now is Massachusetts is actually the first statewide survey of all of the public institutions in the Hope Lab. So, you know, we're very proud that as a state we stood up. All the campus presidents of our public institutions stood up and said, look, this is an issue. We want to see the extent of the issue. And I think the results that we're starting to see from the survey suggest, yes, it is an issue. And it's not all that different from what we're seeing across the country.
One of the things that you called attention to back in that 2015 report was that grants were one of the ways that some of these sort of pilot projects were being funded. Yes. Is that still the case, and is that a problem?
We have been able to get small grants to support this. We are seeking additional dollars from a variety of sources to support it. You know, when you make the case that this is necessary, people sometimes shake their heads and say, "How can this be?" And I think the reality is we just have to confront it in different ways, and we're experimenting. I really think the presidents of our institutions have really stood up and said, look, this is something we need to address. They all have food pantries, as you mentioned, and I think we're looking to see how the state universities and community colleges can work together to provide living locations for these students.
Whether you're a student or not, you know, when I've talked to food insecurity advocates on this program before, one of the challenges for people is there's shame or there's stigma attached to seeking that help.
Absolutely.
I've read that when you were a PhD student, you know, food insecurity was something that you even struggled with. What would you say to somebody who might be in a vulnerable position to encourage them to maybe seek out that help?
Yeah, I think our campuses have to be more attuned to what's going on in students' lives, and I think that would reduce some of the stigma. I think other students are great ambassadors for their peers. They support them, they help them. And so we have to do more of that, but a lot of this is new to us. I mean, it's interesting, you had mentioned my time at when I was a graduate student. I even forgot I said that at that interview. But in fact, it was at a time when, you know, I recall that I had a family. I was married, had a young daughter. I was in graduate school. And we could apply and received the equivalent to the SNAP program, the food stamp program. And that was very important. It was temporary, but it helped you get by, and it made a difference.
One of the things that you've pointed out as our first Latino Commissioner of Education is you've written a lot about the challenges that you saw as a student, and really, I think, putting yourself out there to help other students see themselves in your shoes. And you wrote in a Boston Globe op-ed this past fall something, and I wanted to read it. It said, quote, "Many of us have one foot in the academic world and the other foot in the world we came from, straddling a fault line that can feel like a personal imbalance." How did you meet that imbalance for yourself?
Well, I think in many respects, particularly coming to the United States at the age of 3 and moving around while from Puerto Rico, moving around. My father was in the military, and so I even, my youngest brother was born in Fort Devens here in Massachusetts. So I think what I did was basically begun researching and writing and promoting the kind of scholarship that focused on the reality that many of us not only experienced but also read about from our peers. We founded the Puerto Rican Studies Association. When I was president, we had our meeting at UMass Amherst. Those are important legacy points because you had a cadre of new, young faculty that were really interested in learning what is the reality of these communities that are coming to the United States, and how are they thriving? Are they not thriving? What are the obstacles they're facing? So I was, very fortunate to be able to take my academic work and say, let me use what I've learned in this country in terms of my academic experience and apply it to a group that I don't think has been talked about in terms of what the reality they were experiencing.
One of the things that we know about the Latino population in this region and also across the state, it's really one of the only growing sectors of the population here. In trying to convince those or help those students recognize their path to college, one of those programs is the 100 Mails to College program. And I know you've written about your support of that and the success of it. What's the significance of that program?
I think it's hugely significant. The fact, we started in Springfield. We had all of the collaborations. We had the school districts. We have, UMass Amherst, Westfield, Stick. All of the institutions were participating. But the best way to describe how successful it's been is that from there we then had Framingham express an interest and Worcester express an interest, and now we've grown in Brockton and in Salem. So we found that the communities in which these students come were very hungry for this kind of approach, this approach of taking a student in high school, a student that was certainly not an overachiever, a student who struggled a bit, but had good attendance and was certainly interested in school, but was not progressing well. And that's the student we focused on. And we got them involved in this cohort approach, provided wraparound services, gave them credits while they were in high school, college credits while they were in high school so they could understand what college was like. And it's made a world of difference for those students and those communities as well.